does the Bible mention the shroud? Well, surprisingly, it actually does. So I want to show you some scripture where we see instances of the shroud being mentioned in the Bible. Okay, so Matthew, Luke, and John, all three tell about when the body of Jesus, they mention the shroud when the body of Jesus was, after he was crucified and he was put in the tomb. Okay, so here's what we hear in Matthew. Now, when it was evening, a rich man from Arimathea came, named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth. So that would have been the shroud. And laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut out in the rock. And he rolled out a large stone against the entrance of the tomb and went away. Okay, so we also have a very similar account of this in Luke. And then John tells us a little bit more detail. So I want to read that as well. Now, after these things, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but a secret one for fear of the Jews, requested of Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus. And Pilate granted permission. So he came and took away his body. Nicodemus, who had first come to Jesus by night, also came. Do you remember Nicodemus? So that was the Pharisee who requested to have the secret meeting with Jesus, in which Jesus said that most famous discussion in which Jesus said, John 3:16. So that he was a Pharisee. And now we find out, after Jesus has died, that Nicodemus has become a follower of Jesus. So that's exciting. So Nicodemus had first come to him by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 liters of weight. So remember that, the myrrh and aloe. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So they took the body of Jesus and bound it in linen wrappings. So that would be the shroud. And with the spices, as it is the burial custom of the Jews. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden was a new tomb in which no one had yet been laid. Therefore, because of the Jewish day of preparation, since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. All right, so we also hear about the shroud again after the resurrection of Jesus. So here's what Luke tells us. Peter got up and ran to the tomb, and when he stopped and looked in, he saw the linen wrappings only. That's the shroud. And he went away to his home, marveling at what had happened. John tells us a lot more. Okay, the two were running together. This is Peter and John. And the other disciple, John, ran ahead faster than Peter and came to the tomb first. And he stooped to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there. That's the shroud. However, he did not go in. So Simon Peter also came, following him, and he entered the tomb. So leave it up to Peter to go barging in there, of course. And Peter looked at the linen wrappings lying there. So again, Peter notices the shroud as well. And the face cloth, which had been on Jesus's head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but folded up in a place by itself. So remember the face cloth, because we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. So the other disciple who had first come to the tomb also entered. This is John. And John saw and believed. So isn't that amazing that the shroud is even mentioned several times in the Gospels? And I don't think that that is a coincidence. I think that that was intentional, that God wanted us to call our attention to the shroud.